I say with all the visuals that I do, I like it to be the cross-section of art, science, and conservation. I want my viewers to feel what I'm feeling. If I want people to care, I need to transport them into the places and the habitats I care about.
I really want the viewer to feel the intenseness of this animal and stuff. And I've learned that with working with guys like Paul, where, you know, a long lens shot of a polar bear or any wildlife has been done. Like, it's not National Geographic standard. You have to get in there. And when you open that page, you need to be able to feel the power of that animal and see its fur and feel its breath. And so you get in there pretty close. do the best you can to be safe and have respect. And that's comes from being on location for a long time and working with an animal or a group of animals for several days at a time and sort of work your way in. That's amazing.
None of them ever turned and looked like, ooh, I'd like to eat you, Andy Man?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Which is
That's good.
Yeah, if I do feel threatened or I sense a change in their behavior, I'll get out of the water or I'll get back on the boat. Or,
sure.
I feel like you can sort of read those things if you're really sort of tuned in. Animals, they'll let you know before they come right at you generally that they're being upset or bothered.
Well, let me ask you a technical question. What do you do about charging your batteries? I mean, everything you're shooting is digital, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's a nightmare.
Is it?
So I usually, I work with a company called Goal Zero, and they make in-the-field solar products. So I bring panels and little cells that I charge from the sun, and I'll charge the batteries that way. If there's a power source nearby, I also bring a lot of batteries just in case.
I bet you do.
Yeah. But we're lucky that there's these mobile solar charging stations, and I bring those in the field.
I suppose eventually they'll invent boats that have big chargers built into them or something.
They do. The boats are nice. They have actually power outlets. They're just running off an alternator and a generator around the clock. So when you have a boat, you have power.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's places like Greenland where you're dropped off for a month that you need to sort of rely on the sun.
I can't even imagine. One of the things I found really interesting are some of your black and white things.
Yeah.
There was a black and white campaign you did for Black Diamond.
Black Diamond, yeah, they're one of my favorite people to work for. They're a real core climbing company. And they sort of support those climbers, you know. And they had a great vision to shoot black and white for a number of years, all their campaigns, and put us in amazing locations like Patagonia and the desert Southwest to capture their athletes doing what they do. And that was a great freedom as a photographer to have a style guide up front that says, we're looking for gritty, black and white, real images. And then at the end, I think they got a nice deck of photos that really tell that story. And for me, it was really fun to shoot in black and white.
Well, it was also nice to have a sponsor.
And it was nice to have a sponsor that had a vision, which is very nice.
Yeah, that's really neat. One of the things that I also found interesting was seeing in your portfolio photographs of fish.
Yeah.
You love music?
I love music, yeah. So I'm a big sort of acoustic, bluegrass, Americana musician.
You actually are a musician yourself?
I am.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so I used to play a lot more than I do now, but I also love inspirational or improvisational music, and bands like the Grateful Dead and Fish were big influences on just my childhood, teen years, college years and things like that. And so when the band Fish comes to town, they play a big end of the summer tour show in Denver, a big festival. They hire me to go shoot it. And that was an honor because I've got to know the band a little bit and spend some time backstage and on stage during the shows. And it's fun to shoot things a little bit out of your element. Sure. But I know the music so well that it was really natural for me to get in there. I know when the changes are. I know the music so well. I kind of know where to point the camera.
Are you up on the stage?
I get on the stage, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, which is really cool. Yeah, but another thing is they liked my work because I can tell a broader story.
That's it.
They said, hey, most photographers, they just sit in the pit right under the stage because we give them access. And they shoot up at the band the whole time. And I move around, so I'll leave what's called the pit and battle the crowds and shoot people dancing and shoot from the back of the stadium and try to tell a broader story, which they liked.
How candid is the band with you?
Oh, I mean, I hope they even know who I am. I get a little time with them, but it's just an honor to be in their presence, yeah.
Oh, that's really neat. Let me ask you about one that you just recently finished, and that's your downwind voyage.
Yes.
That's different, too.
This one was super cool. So I was working with a surfer named Kai Linney, and he's a prodigy, Hawaiian prodigy surfer. He's sort of pioneering what's called the foil board, and which is where the surfboard, he rides underwater currents and waves you can't even see, and he goes up on what's called a hydrofoil.
Oh my!
And this was for Red Bull, the company, when they had this
Which
idea.
gives you wings, if I
gives
correctly
you wings,
recall.
exactly.
Right.
And this was a great one for me because it was adventure-based, but it had a conservation sort of tie into it. And so what Kai wanted to do was hydrofoil, and he's a big kite surfer and longboard surfer, and he wanted to use all his boards and do all the passages between the Hawaiian Islands and arrange beach community cleanups at each place he landed and took off from. So
wonderful.
the community came out. We'd spend the day at sea, and Kai's just breaking passage records after records, and we'd get there and we'd put our cameras down and we'd clean up the beach and all the plastics, and then we'd move off. So it was one of those projects that was a lot of fun to work on.
But didn't you have to surf to follow him?
I was in a boat.
Oh, that helps.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. And you weren't even steering the boat yourself.
No, I'm just shooting. We're just sort of pacing Kai for safety, and also to be able to photograph and film all these crossings he was doing. And I love it when action, adventure, and sort of conservation come together. And then obviously to have a commercial client that will fund something like that is the perfect storm in a lot of ways.
And that was Red Bull.
That was Red Bull, yeah.
One of the things I think people worry about is getting their equipment wet. Are all of your cameras waterproof?
They're not.
They're not?
No.
Oh, no.
Well, I have an underwater housing.
Oh, that's good.
So when I go physically in the water, it's protected.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just try to do your best to keep them dry. But I've kind of sacrificed a lot of gear in my day. I'm the guy that spits on his lens and cleans it with his shirt and puts it away without a lens cap.
Yeah.
But that's not the best practice.
No. But it's
I don't
worked for
advise
you.
that.
Really?
However, if you're in the moment, and I'm just about getting the shot and telling the story, and once I get in that zone, the equipment becomes a tool and less of what it is, which is a fragile piece of glass.
Yeah, it is. I think a lot of people hear us talking about this and they think, well, I have to go to the Savage Islands, or I have to climb a mountain to have an adventure. I wanted to show a little bit of video. I went with a woman named Lauren Kovsky, and she has a company called Rivers Path, and she takes people on canoe trips in the St. Vrain. So I wanted to say, we went through the St. Vrain, and I shot this with my iPhone, and then we'll come back and talk just a little bit. Andy, I think perhaps Colorado is known for adventure. So if people are beginning to think about maybe becoming photographers themselves or just capturing this beautiful scenery, what would you advise?
I think there's two things I would do as a beginner. One is, I think photography and story, it's all about access a lot of times. So find people that are doing cool things. Often it's scientists, often it's adventurers. Sometimes it's just people in their jobs. And get access to a cool story. And the other thing is work with your photos. So if you want your kids to get in photography, I recommend a Polaroid, because they can hold it and they can put it on the fridge and they can share it.
Oh, fun.
A lot of times it's tough for people to shoot and then see their photos on the back of a camera.
Especially in the sunlight.
Yeah, if you're gonna shoot digital, get a program like Adobe Lightroom, get a computer, offload those images, edit those images, upload them to the web, learn how to use them. And it's different. You can't really grab them much anymore. But if you can print them, even at Target or something, learn how to process the image, because then you're going to spend the most time with it and you're going to learn. You know, a lot of people shoot and don't play with their images. It's like, how can you become a good cook if you don't eat what you're cooking? And so I just advise those things.
These images behind us, have you done a lot of manipulation on them? Or?
Not manipulation, but I've done some like color correcting. So I'll enrich the blacks or bring out some of the colors and contrast and shadows. And so I like to play with my photos. I think it's a really fun part of the process.
Oh, that's neat.
They never end up too far from the way I shot them, but they're
good.
a little more lively.
You know, when I first saw these, I thought these were whales.
I know, some people just see a mountain.
Yeah,
And I'm
or
like,
a
"That's
mountain
the
or a
ocean."
whale.
Or yeah, I've heard whale on this one. Yeah,
Yeah. And how close to these images were you?
really close, like just about 10 feet away.
Oh my goodness.
Sort of staying in this small boat and sort of
can't
watching what's happening.
Well, Andy, you're such an adventure. This is so exciting.
Thank you.
I feel really lucky that we got a chance to see these and to talk to you.
I do too. Thank you so much for having me on this program.
And you're on your way where next?
Oh, I am on my way to Montana to work in Yellowstone for a bit, and then I'm off to Greenland.
Oh, so fun. And I
Yeah.
know you'll have a great time. Thank you so much for being with
Thank
us.
you
Thank
so
you for bringing
much.
your beautiful photos. And thank you for joining us on Love You Longmont.